Good afternoon and welcome to our afternoon session as part of GreenWeek as we all work through that journey towards sustainable development. So much going on, so many interesting thoughts and ideas and translation into action. This session is the search for sustainable buildings, innovation solutions from Levels and the new European Bauhaus. My name is Peter Woodward. I'm an independent facilitator and absolutely delighted to be with you this afternoon to explore some aspects of this compelling and important agenda. Just a couple of words just at the start. Thank you very much for joining us as we go through. If you have a comment or a question, then please use the Slido connection. As you see on the screen, you just put your camera up to the Slido mark and hopefully you will connect into this session. So please do that as we go all the way through. So the search for sustainable buildings, a huge topic, a really fascinating one. There is so much going on in this space. Our format for this afternoon is we're going to have a number of presentations, hopefully to inform and inspire, and follow that up by some panel conversation, particularly looking at how we turn the ideas and the urgencies into a reality. So we hope very much you will enjoy this session. Right at the outset, in order just to frame this discussion and see how it fits into the broader drive with the European Green Deal and the European drive towards sustainability, I'd like to just introduce a short video from the Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries from Virginijus Sinkevicius.
The new European Bauhaus is an inspirational initiative. It has already involved thousands of citizens across the EU. The movement is growing, and I'm sure it will help shape the future, the way we live. It's built around a very simple thought, that buildings and built spaces should be environmentally sustainable. They need to support our planet, while being inclusive and beautiful at the same time. That means thinking across disciplines and encouraging cooperation between a wide range of people. It's based on 3 pillars. First of all, sustainability, with a special focus on circularity. Secondly, aesthetic, quality of the experience, ensuring it's enjoyable for all. And then thirdly, inclusion, so that everyone is involved. These buildings can't be out of reach. Our new Bauhaus comes in 3 stages. We started back in January with design. This is a process of co-creation, defining the scope and identifying great ideas. Perhaps you contributed. If not, have a look at the website and see how you can take part. The next big stage is in the autumn, when we move to delivery. That means pilot projects, relevant initiatives, and a community of practice for all our partners. The last stage is dissemination. That's when we concentrate on networking and sharing knowledge, helping practitioners help each other. Our new Bauhaus is built on sustainability and circularity. Today, you will be talking about an important tool that can help us deliver both. Level is a European framework with a small set of indicators to assess and report on the sustainability performance of buildings. It provides a common language firmly rooted in circularity. It takes a holistic approach and it translates life cycle performance into understandable components. For users, Levels means enhanced dialogue and deeper collaboration. I'm sure it will make an important contribution to the new European Bauhaus. Enjoy the session.
So a great framing from the Commissioner. So our vision is about sustainable construction, a built environment that is truly sustainable. Boy, have we got some journey to go through. We often look to the great architects to offer us some sense of that vision of the future. Not only are we wrestling with a whole set of technical issues that bear down on pollution, unsustainability, but also we are talking about creating livable places. These are places for us. And so I hope this session is partly going to see this from the perspective of people who are users of that environment, and to maybe provoke some thought at the start of this session. I'm delighted that we're joined by Christophe Hutin, who's a renowned French architect from Bordeaux, been working for, I think, more than 20 years, really thinking about issues of city construction, and particularly the focus on drawing the stakeholders, the residents in, to be part of engagement with and controlling the environment that they want to live in, enjoy and utilize. And this year, Christophe is representing France as commissioner of the French Pavilion at the 17th Venice Biennale of Architecture, under the theme of how are we going to live together. Christophe, it's great to have you with us, and I'm hoping you may throw some challenging, thought-provoking, visionary thoughts in our direction. So if you'd like to unmute, and then over to you, Christophe.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm going to show you today a project that we have done in Bordeaux. It's the transformation of 3 buildings, 3 blocks of social housing, rental social housing, and it's 530 units building. So we have done this project with Anne Lacaton, Jean-Philippe Vassal, Frédéric Druot, and myself. It was finished in 2016. So you must know that in France, the politic of urban regeneration, renewal, is always demolishing. So we are for many years now trying to change the mindset and to say that maybe we have to take care of the people and of the situation of the people inside the housing units. So we propose to transform this building instead of demolishing. The 3 blocks were planned to be demolished, and we did transform it. And I'm going after after this introduction and show you some images. What I want to say is the project was done with the people inside the apartment during the construction, because the project is done for them. You know, it's quite difficult to establish your personal story in a social housing apartment. So this project is dealing with that. When you decide to demolish or to transform a neighborhood, sometimes or usually you are looking at very far, very high in the sky, like from the plane, and you are considering buildings like a mass without the life. The way we are working, we are inside the architecture, and I did visit the 530 families. And I must tell you that it's 530 marvelous world that we have to continue the story and to make better what is nice and to fix what is not nice. So maybe we can start the video if you want, and we can have some images of this building. So this is the building in Bordeaux. Bordeaux is a very flat city, and the building were done in the 60s. The modern building, social housing, they've got the capacity to be transformed. So you can see the whole facade in this image, and you can see what we have done. We did extend the apartment with a concrete structure, 4 meters large, and so we make a double size for the area to live inside this apartment. So the images that you can see here, the people are inside the apartment. The daily life is here, they continue. And we just had prefab structure to extend the housing and the life. We want to provide a more generous space, and just for the life to take places and space to extend the life. So the space that we provide in this project is not a functional space. I mean that it's an open partition. The people inside, there is no function determined in that space. So the life can be extended in that space, and the people they have got a new relationship with the climate, with the environment, and they can deal also with the energy efficiency, because we increased 60% the efficiency in terms of energy in this building with this winter garden, who is providing control of the energy, the sun, and yeah, it's a very efficient on that point. So I want to bring back a few people.
Comme ça. Je vois comme ça, je vois
une
une énorme chose très bien faite. C'est mes yeux, voilà, finalement. C'est avec ça que je vis maintenant. Parce qu'avant, on était ici enfermés. On ne sortait pas, on était là, il y avait des petites fenêtres, tu voyais rien du tout, quoi. Dans les jardins d'hiver, je fais beaucoup de choses. Je me promène, je sors dehors, je regarde les gens qui travaillent à l'extérieur. J'arrose mes plantes, tout, quoi, et je fais la vie. Moi, je vis avec mon copain, le temps. Vous connaissez le temps? Je suis à l'ascenseur, je trouve des gens, et je le vois, il fait chaud, il fait froid, il va faire mauvais, et c'est toujours mon compagnon de route. Il ne me suit pas trop. Et puis après, ça continue, et je parle de mon balcon. Je peux faire le balcon que l'appartement. C'est normal. C'est une autre vie. Là, je suis dehors, je sors à l'autre balcon, le petit, c'est dehors à l'extérieur, je vois tout le monde, je regarde les gens, c'est comme si je suis dehors, à la rue.
So, this lady, her name is Aurelia Ramos. She's from Spain, and now she speaks very well French, because she's living in this apartment for 40 years. And the project is done for all the families and all the people who are living in these blocks from a very long time. And we did update this building and make it more comfortable, more generous. And yes, we are taking care of the people inside, and they've got new space. And you know, after the year that we have spent with the lockdown, I think the situation was better for them to get the space and to be related to the climate and to the sky. And this is what she said. She said, I can tell you quickly that in the past she was locked inside this apartment with small window, and now she's living with her best friend with the time. So it's a philosophical point of view, because you don't know if she's talking about the climate or the time. It's up to you to think about it. And yes, and after we can have also, I hope in the time we're going to share now, we can have with the panelists also more exchange about this issue. Thanks a lot, and I give you the space now. Thank you, Peter.
Christophe, thank you very much. So very interesting work there. And it's so often as we start to discuss kind of technical issues around sustainable materials and construction and all the rest of it, that it's easy to forget that at the very heart of it are living beings by themselves, in households, in community, and how we embrace that within the work moving forward and the visions, so people own, love, care about, and are able to be functional within those spaces is so important. So thank you very much, and yeah, definitely hope to draw you into the conversation a little further along. Just a reminder that we are connected in on Slido, so if at any point you either have a comment or a thought that you, or a question that you want to throw into the discussion a little bit later on, then please just fill it in on the Slido, and we'll monitor that as we go through. And sometimes it's useful to see comments that don't become part of the conversation but are interesting in their own right. So in this second part, we've got 4 panelists who are doing interesting and extraordinary things in their own areas. And what I'd like to do is to give each of them the opportunity to just share some of their perspectives on the work that they are involved in. And then we will draw together a conversation in the form of a panel. So first of all, I'm delighted we're joined this afternoon by Bernard Magenhan. Bernard is Deputy Director at the Joint Research Centre, which is the European Commission's Science and Knowledge Service, where he's in charge of energy, transport and climate, nuclear safety and security, as well as support services. So Bernard, you have a lot on your plate, which is great. Thank you very much for sparing some time with us. This is a really exciting time because we've got the new European Bauhaus, and we've got the whole levels program creating that framework for assessment of sustainability within construction. So what I'd like to do is just give the space to you, 4 minutes of our lives, maybe just to highlight how some of the pieces of jigsaw are coming together as we begin to really piece together that transition to sustainable, low pollution construction. So Bernard, thank you very much, and over to you.
Thank you, Peter, and hello to everybody. A big program on our plate today, but let me just start with a few figures. If you take the building sector today, the building sector accounts for half of all extracted materials, half of the total energy consumption, 1/3 of the water consumption, and 1/3 of the waste generation. These are just a few figures showing that if we want to achieve the Green Deal, of course, we have to take into account the building sector and see what we can do. In the European Commission, of course, together with a large number of stakeholders, we have developed what you just mentioned, Peter, levels. And what is levels about? Well, it's a methodology which allows assessing to what extent a building is aligned with the circular economy. It has been designed to act as a bridge between the EU policies, technical standards, but also the building professionals, and sets a common framework and, even more important, a language for building sustainability. The concept behind the levels framework started to take form already 6 years ago when the building sector became a key area for actions in the European Commission. And the Commission then officially launched, and that's last year, the concept of levels. And during this time in the Joint Research Centre in the Commission, we have been driving this development, managing, I must say, a great collaborative process where we have worked closely with a large number of building professionals from all across Europe. And I must say it has been a fantastic experience to witness the enthusiasm of the building sector with the companies, the authorities in developing and testing levels. And this process has resulted in a broad framework, yet with a limited number of indicators, which covers key areas covering the full life cycle of buildings, including carbon, resource use, but also health and comfort, as well as resilience to climate change. So levels is a framework to assess and report on the sustainability, performance of buildings. It's not a certification scheme, but what we see is that many certification schemes align themselves with levels. And this is exactly the idea we have with implementing a common language. There are, of course, great possibilities to improve the performance of buildings today, to reduce the whole life carbon, to improve health and comfort, and at the same time, increasing the value of the buildings. And levels shows the way. Also, more and more member states realize that in order to reach their carbon objective, they will have to look to the full life cycle of buildings. Design based on circularity has the potential to reduce carbon emissions significantly, and that's at the core of levels. Let me now say a few words also on the Bauhaus. Be sure that the new European Bauhaus also includes this concept, but it goes a little bit wider because it includes, as the Commissioner mentioned, aesthetics, accessibility, and affordability, also involving larger communities than just the construction sector itself. We involve artists, young generation, designers, researchers. The new Bauhaus was announced alongside the renovation wave strategy, but with a bigger and broader scope. And we strongly believe that this renovation challenge for Europe should go beyond the functionality of buildings by putting people at its center and at the end of the day bring greater sustainability, more inclusion, and enhance the quality of life of everyone, like the lady in the video that Christophe has just shown. This is why the ambition of the new European Bauhaus is to make the Green Deal a cultural, human-centered, positive and tangible experience for all, a regeneration moment to recover from the pandemic while becoming stronger and more socially just. So it's about our daily lives, a better focus on how we live together in more beautiful, sustainable and inclusive places while respecting the boundaries of our planet. So in summary, it's a strong innovation in design, an innovation in technology. It requires upskilling of workers, new business models, and a reviewed governance for a long-term transformation in Europe of buildings. Hope that I have been short enough. Thanks. Back to you, Peter.
Bernard, that's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. And you touch on really two essential planks of that journey forward. And I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit more about maybe what more the European Commission can be doing to foster this transition. But what you've said, I'm sure will be music to the ears of our next speaker stroke panelists. Delighted that we're joined this afternoon by Alexandra Mitsutaki. Alexandra is president and co-founder of the World Human Forum, very much a global citizen initiative, placing people, culture, values at the heart of this transition. Alexandra is also a member of the new European Bauhaus high-level roundtable, looking particularly at the social aspect. And I think, Alexandra, you straddle the strategic, looking at the great challenges and issues we face globally, but then drawing that down to local stories and narrative of transformation that's taking place. So, Alexandra, great to have you with us, and just interested for 3 or 4 minutes whether you could just lay out 1 or 2 of your thoughts contributing to this whole issue of the journey towards that search for truly sustainable buildings. Alexandra, over to you. Just need to check the sound.
Okay, sorry, I'm there now. Okay, so for me, the new European Bauhaus could be also called a new ecological behavior, okay, that also makes NEB out of it. And I remember that when I first mentioned the new European Bauhaus concept to a friend in Brussels, I was asked whether this was a cultural or an environmental project. When I answered both, my friend seemed sort of surprised. For me, the important word under the 3 words under Bauhaus, sustainable, together and beautiful, is a little word that is missing, and that is the word and. Yes, green and cultural and socially inclusive. This is the important message I think the Bauhaus is sending, and it is that gives the NEB the potential to provide Europe with something I believe it badly needs, and that's cultural identity. Because it is about our built environment. It is essentially, in fact, about our European way of life. If you ask a 5-year-old if the car their parents are driving is fueled by hydrogen or battery, electrical battery or petrol, I'm not sure the child knows, and actually I know he doesn't really care. But if in European cities, parents and children can cycle to school, if they can walk in 15 minutes to the places they need and want to go, if in our cities we find green spaces that are neither private nor public, where community and neighborhood can cultivate their vegetables garden, if the leftovers of the canteens are transformed into compost and children create small permaculture gardens in their school, using the principle of permaculture, then believe me, a child will know that he lives in a different place. And finally, when European schools are renovated, which actually is an important project, if they're renovated and if what we do then is we ask the contractors to consult with the children, to consult with the parents, to consult with the teachers, then I'm sure something will have really changed. Now, how are we going to do all this? What we need to do first, and I'm very glad I speak here, because I'm not a construction expert. And when I was invited, I actually refused at first, saying, no, I don't think this is for me, this is really for experts. And I was told, no, you can come, this is really about the big narrative. Because I believe that what we must do at the European level is break down the silos between the different directorates. There's so many projects in the fields of education, in the fields of European way of life, in the fields of culture, but somehow they are all very dispersed. And actually only yesterday I heard about the new one, 100 Sustainable Cities for Europe. Now, we must understand that a mayor of a small or medium-sized city, for citizens associations, for NGOs, it is not easy to understand that all these projects are in fact all fitting together. The NEB can show this by asking for every European project to have the three elements, to have socially inclusive, cultural and environmental element. And I will end saying that the other thing we need to do is we need to recognize the importance of grassroots initiatives, of ideas that don't come from top down, but from the bottom up. Therefore, we should look very carefully at the applications the NEB prizes have attracted, and I'm sure we will find a lot of brilliant ideas in there. So let me just finish by saying that maybe what we also need to do is remember that in order to do all this, we need more than our rational minds. We need to involve our hearts, we need to involve our bodies, we need to embody the initiatives, and we need to live them, like the lady we saw in the film. So maybe in the end, I chose the wrong title, and I shouldn't have called it the new ecological behavior, but maybe new ecological being, and why not new European beginning? So this is what I wanted to tell you.
Alexandra, thank you very much. A real kind of creative vision that hopefully takes us forward. Alongside that, we obviously do have to deliver on the technical side that enables us to achieve sustainable construction, which will include the reduction of pollution. And our next speaker is Matti Kiitinen, who's Senior Advisor at the Ministry of Environment of Finland, and has been very much involved in trying to hammer out and develop national regulation on whole life carbon assessment of buildings and coordinating Nordic relationship with the new European Bauhaus initiative and linking into levels. So Matti, great to have you with us, and just interested from your world in national policy making and practice, how this is beginning to come together. Over to you.
Thanks, Peter. Hello, Europe. I think, Europe, that we have a challenge, and the challenge is to start making a shift towards a better built environment based on facts. Now, if we take a look at my slides, so we see that we need to start managing the flows of carbon and materials throughout the built environment. And the tricky thing is that when we have European goals and country level goals, these goals should be made possible and followed up on the level of a city or a city block or a single building. So this is indeed a challenge. And if we don't base this on facts, I think that we fall short of meeting our climate and resource intensity goals. So this is what we need to do. And from my perspective, as we know that we are very short of time, we should not either waste time on reinventing wheels many times. And that's why I think that the Levels initiative and the Levels framework is so important to be taken and adopted quickly into European policymaking. For instance, in Finland, we tested this very extensively and learned from the experiences, and now we are embedding this into our legislation, which will include whole life carbon limits for buildings in the next few years. So the Levels can be a very important part there behind the system of linking these different scales of the built environment. But that's not all. I think that it's very important to take the latent potential of arts, design, and architecture into this quest of ours. So of course we need to have the technical solutions, we need to have all the quantitative ways of managing and metering of how the flows of carbon and material go through our built environments, but we do need to take the artistic approach as well. And this is why we have organized Nordic events, and we have engaged over close to 2,000 Nordic participants to talk about that. How could art, design, and architecture help us in the transition into a much more sustainable future? Because the transition is not necessarily always an easy one. So we truly need to have something that helps our emotions and helps our behavior to change. And I'd like to finish with the famous Finnish architect Alvar Aalto's quote. He said a long time ago already that the ultimate goal of the architect is to create a paradise. Now, it is important to, of course, to calculate carbon footprint and take everything technically into account, but after all, we should seek for a paradise, and perhaps not only for us humans, but all European life, including non-human as well.
Matti, that's great. Goodness me, we've got some exciting visions about the future, and very much in tune with what you're expressing there. And we always look to Finland as, is it the happiest nation on the planet, to offer us some pointers to what that means, and maybe connecting into the environment within which you are creating and living. Before we open up the broader discussion, and please do any comments, thoughts, questions, challenges on Slido, do send them through. I'd like to introduce our fourth contributor, Simon Davis, Director at AIA Environment, sustainability consultancy basis, company based in Nantes, looking particularly at low carbon renovation and healthy urban design. And I know you're involved very much in a research project around net zero carbon strategies, the NZC Renovation project. So Simon, interested to see what you can add to our discussion this afternoon. Great to have you with us. Over to you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm really honored to be here today and to give you a short overview about a research program called NZC Renovation. It's a net zero carbon renovation. So if we can show the slide now. A first introduction about the life cycle assessment strategy in France. We are quite well advanced in France about new buildings, because there will be the release of the new regulation about new buildings this year. And we also plan to renovate 500,000 buildings a year, so that's a lot. But basically, we are focused a lot about the performance of new buildings, and now we need to focus more about the carbon footprint for existing buildings. And there is currently a lack of awareness, methodology, and feedbacks in the evaluation of carbon footprint for existing building. It is really a key issue to match net zero carbon, because if we can take into account the renovation wave, we figure that in 2025 there will be more construction materials and waste generated by renovations than new buildings. So practices need to move towards whole life cycle carbon emissions as key indicator to match net zero carbon objective, and not only the energy performance of renovation. So if I can give you just 3 tasks about the NZC renovation project. First, it's a practice review and methodology, more methodology detail about it. Then to face the diversity of renovated buildings, we have chosen to select some business case in order to study them further, and then trying to achieve net zero carbon in refurbishment with those business cases. And of course, all along the program, there will be consultation, communication of all buildings professionals. So let's have a look now of the business cases overview, which gives a great overview of the complexity and the diversity of renovated buildings in the French context. The first family is individual housing in sprawling urban environments, which represent a lot of renovated building to do in the years. Most of them are really recent buildings, and it's a kind of a big issue that we have to renovate it right now. Of course, there are large housing estates in suburban areas, a lot of them, ancient buildings in medium-sized town center, and it's really a big issue to revitalize town centers in France with this historical heritage. There are also large unitary urban area to be refurbished in the heart of big cities like Paris. And of course, industrial heritage in regenerated wasteland, which have a lot of big health issue to deal with also, with the ground, polluted ground and all this. And of course, major renovation for recent corporate real estate. And seventh family, which is the urban ground floor to be activated. It concerns retail space in particular, and smaller space also. So as you can see, there is a large variety of project sizes, locations, and building heritage, and the low carbon strategy has to be adapted to each context and to each specificity of those buildings. When you have a look at the results of the life cycle analysis of all those business cases, you can see that the results are slightly different. And this is what we call the carbon diversity of renovation. So basically, you have to adapt the strategy to each family in order to find the right approach. And there is not like a recipe with renovation. You have to accept kind of complexity and to adapt to this context. Another interesting learning about this study is that we often think that there is not a lot of material carbon footprint in renovation because, of course, there is existing material. When you see the LCA results, we see that the embodied carbon is more than we thought first. So basically the weight of materials and equipments are really significant, and we have to take it into account if we do not want to have a huge carbon impact during all the construction work. So basically this weight of materials and equipment in France is from 40% to 70% of the whole life cycle analysis of the building, of the whole carbon impact. So it's a key issue to address for renovation. And of course, we have to do performance renovation, but there are 5 levers to do a net zero carbon renovation. First lever is frugality. Preserve existing building, not use unuseful material, increase use value, and architecture is made for this purpose. There is circularity, reuse materials, selective demolition, and resource recovery inside the building. There is materiality. It means adapting the material you use to the context of the building and also to the summer issues of the building in certain climates. There's also a reflection about technicity, It means low-tech conception, digital designment, because in renovation, all the equipment, they are, this is a big weight in the wall balance of the building. So maybe we will start to use reused equipment as well. And of course, externality. It means sharing and mutualization with the neighborhood, compensation with positive impact for local communities, and all these strategies. So I will try to have a focus just to see you this diversity, this kind of diversity for renovation, of course, and just as an illustration, all the results of the LCA here, when you can see that the weight of materials is 40% to 60% of the whole building impact, and just have a show of all these 5 levers for NZC renovation that we have identified. Thank you for your attention.
Simon, that's great. Very interesting. And we see a number of these research projects really trying to understand what's going on and how we need to shift. So that's great. I'm going to bring all our panel in for a little bit of discussion now. But first, I just want to come back to you, Simon. Obviously, renovation of existing buildings is a huge thing.
Yes.
We often see that the power of public procurement is a significant possibility of driving this. And just interested, a question that's come in has asked, is it the fact that renovation of public buildings only takes operational energy reduction into an account, and asked the questions of what if LCA could be a requirement for public funding? Brief comment on that?
Yes, of course, I definitely agree about the fact that we should take into account not only energy impact, so embedded energy, but also operational energy, but also the carbon footprints. And when you see it in terms of scientific approach, you will see that when you renovate a building, basically you generate carbon emissions at first to bring all the materials in it. And then it would take time to recover all this carbon that you have emitted with the energy reduction of the renovation. And the question is how much time will it take to have a net zero carbon renovation? And from all those business cases, we have seen that if we don't take into consideration materials, it might take more than 50 years to do the balance and to be really net zero carbon. So basically, you have to take into account material. If not, you will ignore maybe 50% of the carbon issue. Okay.
A theme around sustainability, climate change, everything else is that time is short, and we've got short time for conversation. I'm delighted that we're also joined by Kęstutis Sadauskas, who's Director of Circular Economy and Green Growth at the DG Environment of the European Commission. Great to have you with us, Kęstutis, and do join in the conversation. I think within the time that I've got available, my proposition to you is that it looks as though we are putting together some pieces of the jigsaw, the levels, the new Bauhaus. There is an emerging reality, and there are lots of pilot projects, all the rest of it. The reality is that we have to transform at pace and at scale, and the danger that there are lots of really interesting, well-funded sort of boutique solutions, but this has to penetrate every housing estate, every development across Europe. And I'd just be interested in comments, and I think just put a hand up and you can come back to me, is what we are putting in place at a European level and also at a national level in terms of the framework and the thinking going on within business, is that sufficient and we just need to sit back and let it happen and change will take place? Or is there something more that is really needed to get that activity happening, as I say, at scale, right across, and not just in the sort of best corners of our good practice? Who would like to play? Alexandra, did you want to offer just an initial word? And if you keep a comment brief, that'd be great.
Yes, well, I think we need to do more because what we need to do is change our mindsets, okay? And there's nothing more difficult than changing our mindsets, but it seems to be happening quite quickly because when President von der Leyen opened the conference of the new European Bauhaus, for those of you who haven't heard her, I would really like you to listen because I was so surprised. In fact, I thought I was talking, you see, and I said, hello, you know what she's saying now. And this was very, very, very inspiring for many people. And let me just say that there are so many examples on the ground. You would be surprised that we don't need actually to do much more than look at what's happening right now and acknowledge that ordinary citizens and that small initiatives are taking place everywhere. But one thing is missing, and that is that there is no funding and no support for those small citizen initiatives. Up to now, they've never been acknowledged. And I do hope that the NEB will do that. And if it does that, then you would be surprised how quickly things can change.
All right, thank you for that. Bernard, I think you wanted to come in, and then Matti.
Yes, thank you, Peter. I fully agree with what Alexandra just mentioned. We should also consider the political momentum. More than ever today, we are pushing in the Commission to be the first continent carbon-free in 2050, with a big target in 2030 already. And if you look to the figures I just provided at the beginning of my interventions, this will not happen without renovation, new buildings, to make it happen and to get it done. So I think that the new European Bauhaus is a big opportunity for the Commission, but not only the Commission, the Member States, the citizens, to sit together and to contribute to something that we all want to for the next generations. And I would really like to mention this momentum. I have the feeling that everybody now talks more green than before. And that's a chance that we have and we have to exploit fully.
Thank you very much for that. Matti, did you want to come in? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Regarding levels, I think that what we are doing now is sufficient. But the thing is that we just need to implement it and link that into national climate goals. But the framework itself, I think it's working well, but it's just take it into use. But regarding the new European Bauhaus, I think it's difficult to say if it's sufficient or not, because I'm assuming that it should be all about creating a movement. And as we know, a movement cannot be steered top down. And this is the transition into which I'm hoping that the whole sector of design and construction will move into very fast.
Thank you. Just whilst you're on, we just had a question really about that, because we've got a drive coming from the European level, and for example, we've got levels that then needs to be translated into the real world at a national level. And just someone asking for sort of any further thoughts or advice about that translation of sort of a European vision through the, lots of nations are some way off really embracing this agenda. I just wonder whether you've got any thoughts from encouraging national policymakers to be connecting into programs like levels, or people just have to find their own level. Matti, do you want to offer a comment on that?
Yes, sorry. I see this as a great opportunity. So definitely I would encourage all the policymakers to get involved into this, because there are so many points of intervention where you could easily put this into contact with your national goals, be they climate goals or biodiversity goals or design goals or cultural goals. So definitely. And I think that because there is the sense of urgency at the moment. Therefore, I feel that it now makes maybe more sense than before to not try to develop things nationally or regionally, but just to take really enjoy the benefits of being one European family and taking that potential into account. So I think that this is so important now. And of course, there are always people who are allergic to union, and there are people who are more keen to hold on to their traditions. But I think that there is plenty of room for national-based traditions also within the context of the European Bauhaus. So I don't see it as a substitute for national heritage.
Can I just want to ask you a question, either maybe to either Christophe or maybe Simon. I mean, money makes the world goes round. Construction is a tight business, buildings, margins, profit. You know, it's a business model, and maybe over the last however many years, we are trying to do things sort of as cheaply as possible. You could say in order to create affordable spaces. The transition to this new way of thinking ultimately, I'm sure, will be cheaper and better and more sustainable, but that transition feels to me like a very expensive bump in the road. Am I right or wrong? And if I'm right or wrong, what does that tell us in terms of how we draw people towards maybe rethinking the costs of this transition process? Because otherwise there's just a large number of construction people in all sectors who just want to build quick, make some money out of it. Just wonder, either Simon or maybe Christophe initially, did you just want to respond to that?
Yes, you are right in your, there's a lot of answer in your question, and you are right to say that maybe we have to run more project than business. I mean that sometimes if you are taking care of the people, the goal of each specific situation, you know what is universal for me, our daily life environment, architecture, and especially in housing, is a universal topic. So for European Union is something that we can share in terms of global approach. But the answer by the people are always specific and unique. And the European Union is able to link the people that are giving so heterogeneous answer altogether to bring maybe a very complex and large solution for this universal subject that is housing. And about the money, I can say something very quick, is in my work, what I'm trying to do is to observe more, to increase my expertise and my knowledge on each situation. So observing more allow me to build less and to make the money where we need to put the money very efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. Simon, did you want to
Yeah, exactly. I would say something really in agreement with what just been said is that we must have a clear vision about the priorities, and for €1 that is invested, how much carbon footprint it will reduce. And if we think in terms of priority also, we will more focus, for example, in renovation than in new buildings or renewables. And I think we must have the right strategy to address the priorities in terms of carbon in the project. You must put money in the insulation of the building rather than in the solar panel if you have limited money. And so what is really interesting about that is if you consider renovation or insulation, for instance, it's that we can't see it. So it's not a marketing thing that you will argue with all the users of the building. So we have to make it sexy and to discuss also for the benefits in terms of health for the users. And there are a lot of benefits, including adapting to climate change, for instance.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Just coming back to you, Christophe, just for a moment. Someone's put in a question just asking how the Bordeaux project is financed, as we are talking about money. Just a briefest of answers on that. Is it a kind of pilot project, or how just very briefly, how is that financed?
The owner of the building is a social housing company. It's a public social housing company, and it was a competition, a public competition, and the goal was to renovate the building instead of demolition. So we did answer. We won this competition, and I just want to tell you that the cost of for one apartment it's more or less €50,000 to extend and to double size the apartment with the people inside. And if you demolish and you create a new apartment for these people, it's 4 times more expensive. Okay, it's 200,000 euro to demolish and to build a new apartment. So we are saying that for 20 years and nothing is moved. So I hope the new Bauhaus can help us to provide this this goal.
Okay, brilliant. I'm going to come to you, just Kęstutis, in a moment, just to maybe just a couple of encouraging final comments as you're sort of in the policy making delivery side of European Green Deal, circular economy, etc. But just before, literally, time is not our friend, but could I just ask each of you, if you were to send one very short final shot to our participants and the wider world about that transition towards sustainable buildings and people within a sustainable environment, just what would that message be? And I'm afraid I'm going to have to go for a sentence rather than a paragraph. And just to say, Alexandra, someone's come in and said, how do we ensure youngsters are included in this initiative? So I'm going to come to you, I think, first of all, Alexandra, just a final message ringing in our ears.
Well, first about youngsters, there is an 18 or 19-old Norwegian on our group of the round table, you know, the advisory group for the president. But if I want to end with one sentence, don't forget I'm Greek, and I believe very much in ancestral intelligence. And I would like to cite Aristotle, who used to say that the guy who lives in the house, the person who lives in the house, knows better than the architect.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Marty, we've started with Aristotle. Your thoughtful message as we try to drive this agenda forward.
I would like to end with a philosophical note. I believe we should try to be kind in all we do, of course, especially relating the policies and the design of the built environment.
Thank you very much. Simon, there we are. We've got Aristotle. We've moved on to philosophy. Bring us down to earth, or maybe not.
Just one sentence. I think we must have a holistic approach and not opposing health and sustainability, for instance. Or just one figure is when you invest €1 in energy renovation, you've got 42 cents back just in health spending.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Bernard, just a parting shot from you.
I will be short. I like that for once we put all the parameters into the play. It's sustainability, it's bringing the people, it's culture, it's quality, it's inclusion. So, and that's how Europe should be, no? Let's do it now.
Brilliant, thank you. Christophe, has it all been said, or just a final thought from you?
Yes, just to tell you that what I'm looking for is to create the meeting between the skill of the architecture and the performance of the people. And just to conclude, is the most available and affordable energy is the energy of the people.
Thank you very much. And I'd really just like to leave the last word, the first word from Kęstutis, but also the last word. You're in the engine room of really trying to ensure that sustainable construction, that bearing down on pollution, that circular economy, that all these things do feature both within the European Green Deal, also the recovery package. You've heard some powerful messages from our panelists. Just wonder whether you just want to offer maybe just a final word of caution or encouragement to us. Still trying to just hear from you. I think you're muted.
Yeah, okay, can you hear us? Can you hear
Perfect.
me? Yeah, sorry about this, yeah. Okay. So this is, thanks all really for the exchange, because it shows that the idea to take a new look at the buildings is very well understood, and it's not only and often not so much about the tangible object, but equally about the way of life and about how us as humans and our relations to environment which surrounds us. And this is what is at origins of the pre-war Bauhaus concept, but now it's seen in a different light, a stronger dimension of sustainability. So this is what the new European Bauhaus really sets out to do, of achieving something which is sustainability in all kinds of aspects. It is an exciting initiative, and the time is perfect because we aim for a recovery for the planet and the people. And we've learned about some inspiring examples already applying what Bauhaus aims for. What I take away here is, for instance, from the award-winning Bordeaux project, was the impact of involving residents and communities, the impact of how we live our lives, how the spirit of a place, which is social values, its cultural climate, and much more affects us. Collaboration across disciplines, generations, geographical borders. There is so much that we can learn from this, but it also takes effort to make sure it happens. And the Commission has really understood this and is ready to engage, and I hope you too. And then, of course, we were reminded about the more direct environmental impacts of buildings. There are large flows of resources which we currently do not pay enough attention to. Life cycle performance and circularity being the key concepts for us really to achieve our climate objectives. Because when you take a life cycle approach, you get a different picture, an equation with different variables. And I thought this was very well illustrated with the carbon material flows from building to city to country to level. We've learned also how there are countries already working with us in their building and climate policies, how it is not only about the new buildings, but how existing buildings are seen as the new challenge, especially when older buildings are becoming heritage, which is what Europe is really known to the world. That is what other nations in the world are jealous of very often for us. Refurbishment and how it is done will be increasingly important. It does not have to be a rocket science. Great projects can already take us in the right direction, but we need to change some mindset. For example, we are moving away from the concept of demolition to concept of deconstruction and possible reconstruction. This is how we preserve the value, material and immaterial. And this is what levels the European Common Language for Sustainable Building advocates. It can clearly inspire part of the Bauhaus initiative directly, but it can also support policies working to bring buildings into the circular economy at EU level and national. And of course, if it is there to guide building projects becoming gradually more and more in sync with climate. So I want to thank all the participants, and Peter, you as a moderator, encourage you to check out our levels and Bauhaus initiatives on our website, because a lot of important big things will be happening there very soon. See you next time.
Kestutis, thank you very much. And if I can add my thanks to everyone who's participated, to our speakers for inspiring us. We thought we might change the world in 60 minutes. I suspect we've got the ingredients to change the world, and maybe it's as much about vision and passion and energy, and then the technical stuff will follow in. So if I can thank you all very much for your contributions. We hope, if nothing else, you've just been inspired to take that extra step this afternoon. My thanks also to Josephina Lindblom, who's pulled all this together behind the scenes, and to the teamwork team. There are plenty more sessions to entice you towards the journey towards sustainability and particularly reduced pollution. But from this session, thank you all for joining us, and we will hopefully see you in a practical project, having a conversation sometime soon in the future. Thank you all very much.